Ever wonder what it takes to become the leader of the free world? A fancy degree from an Ivy League school? A family name synonymous with power? Well, what if I told you one of the most consequential presidents in American history never even finished college? This is the story of Harry Truman, the man from Missouri who went from a humble farmer to the Oval Office, proving that determination, not a diploma, defines a leader. Before he was President Truman, he was just Harry, a young man from Independence, Missouri, with two big dreams, to go to West Point and to get a college education. But life had other plans. Poor eyesight crushed his military academy ambitions, and a lack of family funds slammed the door on college. For many, that would have been the end of the story. A life confined to the family farm, dreams deferred, potential unmet. But Harry wasn't like many people. If he couldn't get a formal education, he would create his own. From a young age, Harry was a voracious reader. He devoured books, especially history. He once said, "Not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers." And he lived by that creed. He famously claimed to have read every single book in the Independence Public Library. While that might be a slight exaggeration, the sentiment was real. He consumed volumes on ancient Rome, biographies of great leaders, and the intricate histories of nations. He wasn't just reading for fun. He was studying. He was analyzing the decisions of generals and statesmen, learning from their triumphs and their failures. This self-driven education became the bedrock of his understanding of the world. His early career was a patchwork of experiences that seemed far from a presidential track. He was a timekeeper for a railroad construction company, a bank clerk, and then a farmer. He worked the land with his hands, learned the value of a hard day's work, and understood the struggles of the average American because he was one. He wasn't insulated by wealth or privilege. He was grounded in the realities of everyday life. Then came World War I. Despite his bad eyesight, Harry was determined to serve his country. He memorized the eye chart to pass the physical and was commissioned as an officer. He led an artillery unit in France, earning the respect and loyalty of his men, not through grand speeches, but through his competence, fairness, and courage under fire. They called him Captain Harry, a title he cherished for the rest of his life. This experience was his crucible. It taught him leadership, responsibility, and how to make tough decisions when lives were on the line. It was a practical education in leadership that no university could ever offer. Returning from the war, Truman, like many veterans, tried his hand at business. He opened a men's clothing store in Kansas City. For a while, it was successful. He was a popular and respected local figure. But then, the post-war recession hit, and the business failed, leaving him with a mountain of debt that he would spend the next 15 years painstakingly paying off. Many in his position would have declared bankruptcy, but Truman refused. He was a man of his word, and he was determined to honor his financial obligations. This integrity, this unwavering commitment to doing the right thing, even when it was the hard thing, would become a hallmark of his political career. It was this reputation for honesty and hard work that caught the eye of the Pendergast political machine in Kansas City. They saw in Truman a man who, despite his lack of formal polish, was trustworthy and could connect with voters. They backed him for a local position as a county judge and administrative role, not a judicial one. It was his first step into the political arena. He excelled, overseeing public works projects with an efficiency and a refreshing lack of corruption that was rare for the time. He built roads and courthouses, not for personal gain, but for the public good. From there, his star began to rise. In 1934, he was elected to the U.S. Senate. In Washington, he was initially dismissed as the senator from Pendergast, an errand boy for a corrupt political boss. But Truman quickly proved his doubters wrong. He was a diligent, hard-working senator who focused on the details of legislation, particularly in transportation and oversight. He wasn't a show horse. He was a workhorse. His big moment came during World War II. As chairman of the Senate Special Committee to investigate the National Defense Program, later known as the Truman Committee, he uncovered and rooted out waste, fraud, and profiteering in war contracts. He wasn't looking to grab headlines. He was looking to save taxpayers' money and ensure that the soldiers on the front lines had the equipment they needed. His committee was estimated to have saved the country billions of dollars, and more importantly, countless lives. He became a household name, respected across the political aisle for his diligence and integrity. This national reputation led Franklin D. Roosevelt to choose Truman as his running mate in the 1944 presidential election. Truman was a compromise candidate, acceptable to various factions of the Democratic Party. He accepted the nomination reluctantly. Little did he, or anyone, know what was coming. Just 82 days after being sworn in as vice president, on April 12, 1945, Franklin Roosevelt died. Suddenly, Harry S. Truman, the farmer from Missouri, the man without a college degree, was the 33rd President of the United States. He inherited a world in flames. The war in Europe was nearing its end, but the war in the Pacific raged on. He later told reporters, "I felt like the moon, the stars, and all the planets had fallen on me." He was stepping into the shoes of a giant, a man who had led the country for 12 years through the Great Depression and a world war. The challenges were monumental. In his first few months in office, Truman had to make some of the most difficult decisions any leader has ever faced. He presided over the end of the war in Europe. He attended the Potsdam Conference, where he stood toe-to-toe with Winston Churchill and Joseph Stalin, negotiating the future of a post-war world. And he was informed of a top-secret project, the atomic bomb. The decision to use this new, terrifying weapon on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was Truman's alone. It's a decision that remains one of the most debated in history. Truman's reasoning was based on the advice of his military leaders, who projected that a land invasion of Japan would result in catastrophic casualties on both sides, potentially over 1 million American lives lost. For Truman, the man who had seen the horrors of war firsthand as Captain Harry, the choice was a grim calculation aimed at ending the war quickly and saving as many lives as possible. It was a burden he carried for the rest of his life. But Truman's presidency was about so much more than the end of the war. He was the architect of the post-war world. He faced the rising threat of Soviet expansionism and implemented the Truman Doctrine, a policy of containment that would define American foreign policy for the next 4 decades. He launched the Marshall Plan, a massive aid program that rebuilt a war-torn Western Europe and prevented it from falling into the Soviet sphere of influence. At home, he pushed for a progressive agenda he called the Fair Deal. He fought for civil rights, desegregating the armed forces by executive order in 1948, a landmark step forward in the struggle for equality. He championed national health insurance and federal aid for education. Though many of his proposals were blocked by a conservative Congress, he laid the groundwork for future reforms. Perhaps nothing encapsulates Truman's spirit more than the 1948 election. Every poll, every pundit, every expert predicted he would lose in a landslide to his Republican opponent, Thomas Dewey. The Chicago Daily Tribune was so confident that they famously pre-printed the headline, "Dewey defeats Truman." But Truman refused to give up. He embarked on a relentless cross-country whistle-stop train tour, speaking directly to the American people in his plain, folksy style. He gave them hell, railing against the do-nothing Republican Congress, and the people responded. In one of the greatest political upsets in American history, Truman won. The next day, he proudly held up that incorrect newspaper headline for the world to see, a triumphant symbol of his underdog victory. Harry Truman's story is a powerful reminder that leadership isn't defined by a pedigree or a diploma. It's forged in experience, character, and an unshakable commitment to doing what's right. He was a man of the people who never forgot where he came from. He was plain-spoken, decisive, and took responsibility for his actions, famously keeping a sign on his desk that read, "The buck stops here." His deep knowledge of history, self-taught in the libraries of Missouri, gave him the perspective to navigate a world in turmoil. He proved that a farmer, a failed haberdasher, and a man without a college degree could rise to the highest office and become one of America's greatest and most consequential presidents. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as inspiring as I do, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe for more stories about the incredible figures who shaped our world. We'll see you in the next one.